in the beginning, Recovery Academy events was just a space that myself and particularly a colleague very closely connected to the dip, actually, Katie, you remember Katie, and we were just bringing people together because we knew we needed alternative conversations, and it was just space, wasn't it, where we talked. Yeah,
it was. But I mean, if you look at the stuff that's seeded over the years, have you ever heard that sort of story about when the Sex Pistols played in Manchester and there was that one gig and everybody was there from like New Orleans, Hucknall, there was just everyone was like, and I always feel like that with those Recovery Academy sort of events, because obviously there was the stuff that Hugh started, aggro came from the back of there. Myself and Pete at that time, I mean, I wanted to set up my own recovery group very, very early on. I think, like I say, I think Pete almost kind of, I had all this passion, all this enthusiasm, and this, and I was a carrier. There's no two ways about that. I was at that point. I don't know if I am still now. I'm a little bit jaded, but at that point, I was definitely a carrier. But it just kind of gives some definition and some shape and some meaning to that stuff, and particularly what I was talking about. I was used to refer to it as like transitioning out of offending, and he said, "What you're talking about is recovery." He said, "For me, I think I'm the difference there. Like I say, I think I'm a bit of an anomaly in our world, because for a lot of people, the offending is a symptom of symptom of the addiction. We commit crimes to fund habit, which again is weird, because the addiction is only ever a symptom of the trauma or the depression, or in small cases, a few people who just like to party and get sort of carried away. But yeah, I think, like I say, I think I'm a bit of an anomaly in that regard, because, like I say, for me, it was very much offending was the sort of the primary thing. But yeah, like I say, and then I think the pivotal moment was that Glasgow experience. I think, right in saying that was the first ever, wasn't it, UK?
Yeah, so we had a recovery walk and a conference and all that stuff. Yeah, and we got a few people together that were really busy across the scene. People known to people watching this film, people like David Best and stuff like that. So yeah, it was one of those first big events, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, and I think like that for me, just I mean, there was a couple of bits in there. I mean, listening to, David. I just think we were so lucky. To look at that now, if you could actually say that as the North Wales, we could get David Best to come in and work with us on recovery and stuff, and that now we'd be like, oh my god. But Kenny Antunna, did all that, and again, that's why sometimes I get so frustrated with where we currently at and where we currently sit, and why we're still an outlier, because we had the opportunity and we had some of the best people in the world involved in trying to foment and to kind of grow and foster and nurture what's there. And it's just,
I'd forgotten what you'd said there, but we had two commissioners early on in that journey with us doing recovery stuff, didn't we? In that sense, we had Katie and Kerry Ann, when normally they run a mile from it.
Exactly, mate. And they were both, I mean, again, that's the thing. I mean, for me, coming into it, again, that's been a bit of a learning curve over the past few years, because that was my first experience of commissioners, so I thought they were all a bit,
they were all that good, yes, and then you found out.
I was going to say gung ho, but the term of what I'll use is brave. They actually,
they were brave.
Right, let's get out there and let's actually try and instead of just throwing money at the symptoms, let's actually get out there and sort of try and do it. But like I say, that conference, I mean, obviously the likes of Dave and all that stuff, but there was two guys that in particular really kind of really sort of just crystallised everything that I wanted to do and set me on this path and kind of created this dream for North Wales recovery communities. And the first one was God rest his soul, was Rowdy Yates. Now I was aware of Rowdy, not even from a treatment term, but just from the point of view of the respect that the service users had for him within Manchester and the whole Lifeline thing. And anybody of my generation, any old ravers, the old Peanut Pete stuff, do you know what I mean? He was just like I say, just don't get that type of guys coming along that often. Well, so he's always sadly missed. So it was him. But I think the biggest influence on me, or the biggest effect, was Mark Gilman. Mark talked to Mr. Gilman, and he talks about now. He's like reverential status. But yeah, Mr. Gilman was talking about asset-based community development, and that was just like a massive ching sort of light bulb moment for me. because we've always operated, or I think a lot of recovery stuff and treatment services, it operates from like a weakness based point of view. So what's wrong with you? And we can't do this shit, we can't do that shit. But listening to Mark, it was just kind of about, don't focus on the stuff that you can't do, but you can build off stuff. What are the skills you've got within that community already? What can you already do? What can you already offer? And it's about teasing that stuff out and putting it together. So I mean, the old and Cormac stuff as well, old ABCD stuff, love, and that's the basis, that's the foundation for NWRC, is that whole ABCD model. So we love that to bits. But the other thing I loved about Gilman was he was a fat fella from Manchester, and normally the rest of everybody else that was sort of there was presenting that day. They were all these academics, and it was all doctor this and doctor that. And like, even like, do you remember Stevie Bamber?
Yeah, I do remember Stevie Bamber.
Guy and his story, but he was just, that guy was a born academic. So I don't know how he ever ended up shooting up gear in the doorway of the Northern College of Music. He was a born academic. There's no two ways about that. Probably one of the cleverest guys I've ever met. But just for somebody like me, completely intimidating, whereas talking or hearing Gilman talk for, he talks like me, even looks like me. The only difference between me and Gilman, I've got a better beard these days, and he's a United fan and I'm a City fan. And that just kind of, because he was like, I think he was the head for the NCA at the North West at the time, and I actually thought, do you know what, you don't need to be a doctor, you don't need to be an academic to get in and to do this sort of stuff. And I look at Gilman, and I probably do the guy a massive disservice, because he's probably got qualifications coming out of his ass, but it's the strength of his character and it's the strength of his personality. He's a recovery carrier, and it's that whole thing, and he just enthuses you, so it was just, so that was like massive for me. But I think what was the cherry on the cake for the whole Glasgow experience, I don't know if you remember, Wolf, but on the train on the way home, it was me, you and Pete, we were sat there, and then I walked through the carriage for the whiz, and I saw Gilman sat on his own, and I came back to you all excited. I was like, Gilman's through there, can we go and talk to him? And basically we went in and we sat there, and I just pecked his head from Glasgow all the way through to Waddington Bank Quay.